My name is Nguy Croal, and I'm the Editorial Director of Microsoft Game Dev, our website devoted to all things game development at Microsoft. From tools and technologies to programs and services, our mission is to power games and empower the creators that make them across any platform, virtually anywhere in the world. Last month, we announced that Unity has selected Azure as its cloud partner for building and operating real-time 3D experiences from the Unity engine. In addition, we're working together to make it easier for game creators around the world to publish to Xbox consoles and PC. Joining me today to tell developers more about Unity Create Solutions is Marc Whitten, the Senior Vice President and General Manager of Unity Create Solutions. Thanks for taking the time to chat today, Marc.
It's great to be here with you, Nguy.
We sure do go back a long way.
We definitely do.
So for developers who maybe don't know so much about what Unity Create Solutions is, and for those who do know a bit but could stand to know more, what is Create Solutions?
Sure. Well, Create inside of Unity is the part where we house all of the tools and services that we create for creators to be able to do their best work. Now, obviously, that starts with the Unity engine and editor, which is our real-time 3D game engine that runs across over 20 different platforms and is really designed to make it as easy as possible for people to be able to create games in 2D or 3D and ship them on the platforms that matter and really reach their creative intent. But we've also been doing much more than that. So in addition, we're investing pretty heavily in art tools, in particular with Weta Digital, which is the set of tools we do for professional art creation and where we're going to take that, Ziva Dynamics, SpeedTree, and a variety of tools and services to make it easy for people to get the most out of real-time 3D, regardless of the industry that they're in.
So Marc, what can you tell us about the vision behind Create Solutions? Where did it come from?
Well, it's really been an outgrowth of what we are at Unity. We've sort of have had this mission for a long time that we believe the world is better with more creators in it. And it's really been about how do we democratize access to the tools and technology to be able to make games and then to be able to take that into even more industries. So as you know, I was on Xbox for a long time, and I remember how hard it was to create games. There have been many console launches where I was worried we weren't going to be able to get games out from even the largest game publishers. But with Unity, we made it easy enough that, frankly, at the last console launch, there was a title made by a single individual, all by himself, that was able to be there at the launch of the platform. And for us, that's what democratization looks like. But as you talk to creators, obviously you hear more and more about their challenges. And so that's both from design, it's about art, it's about project management, and it's about all of the parts that you need to think about to bring together to really create an end-to-end game, which these days is more likely to be multiplayer, it's more likely to be live, it's more likely to have a variety of assets, and it has a stronger need to be able to run across a variety of different platforms.
So what is it about Weta Digital that made them the right fit for Create Solutions?
Weta Digital has built an incredible portfolio of tools really about building the best possible visual fidelity in a variety of ways to be able to create the possible and the impossible. It's Weta Digital, so they do these amazing things from Lord of the Rings to Avatar to the sort of best of the content. But what was amazing to us when we got to know them and really spent time with the tools is how those tools worked. And what those tools tended to do was to create the capability to procedurally generate or to get much closer to the artist's intent before the artist had to start doing a bunch of work. So when someone needs an entire forest, you don't open up a blank canvas and start drawing trees. They simulate the growth of a forest over 1,000 years, including the way sunlight filters through a particular tree or something. And in so doing, get you to a much better representation that you can then start from to sort of tailor that into exactly what you need. Now, for them, of course, they were very, very focused on film and visual effects. But those same techniques to sort of be able to make it easier for artists to create obviously apply to games of all types, and that was why it was so exciting for us.
When you think about the impact that this technology could have on games, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Impatience to get it into their hands even faster. We recently did, a few talks at SIGGRAPH this year, showing, some various techniques and capabilities, in particular of how the technology can come together. So we showed there's this demo called Lion, if you look it up, where we show a lion which has used the Weta technology to sort of simulate and animate 3 million individual hairs on the lion, the way the light filters through, the way they should run with exact physics, and also Ziva Dynamics, another company that we've bought, to sort of deform and sort of animate the overall character, all running at 60 frames per second on a console. Now, we're just getting started with the work necessary to productize those tools because the tools from Weta Digital had been used only by a specific set of people working in one particular location. But people are very excited about the technology, and it's coming soon.
Do you see any similarities between the needs of Hollywood and the needs of the game industry?
Yeah, well, I think the number one thing that's similar is that they all are, struggling with the amount of content that they want to create. We have this goal of making it, we call it 10 to the thirds better, 10 times faster, 10 times easier, 10 times cheaper, to build the content that you might want to populate a living world for a game, or for a visual effects shot, or for any other reason that you might want to use real-time 3D. And as we all know, if you look in a large game studio, a huge part of that studio will be doing art. It takes years, and it can be very complicated. And so what we hear more and more is that they have all of these amazing ideas, but they need it to be easier, they need it to be scalable, and they need it to be something that can be supported across a range of scenarios and devices.
How does Ziva Dynamics fit into your vision for Unity Create solutions?
Yeah, well, Ziva Dynamics, it fits very well in this same sort of thesis as we were talking about with Weta Digital, where it's really focused on how do you use machine learning and AI to make it easier to create, high fidelity assets. In Ziva Dynamics' case, it's really about animation and deformation of meshes. And so what that really means is when you have a mesh and you want to be able to deform it, to animate it, to rig it, how can you do that using the cloud and AI techniques versus a very, very manual process of creating the rigging just so that you can do the animation. What we're finding is that we have the tools and technology to take a team of artists months and turn that into weeks for one or two artists. So it's a good example of that 10 to the third kind of idea of how do we make it easier for people to create content.
Are the solutions that you're coming up with equally relevant to Hollywood and to game developers?
Well, they're really relevant across both of them. However, there's one big difference, and that difference is whether it needs to run in real time or whether it can be something that's pre-rendered. Given enough time, you can run something for you can render, 1 frame a day of an amazing amount of processing power and get to really great results. But in a game, what you need to be able to do is really represent something in high fidelity, reacting to a customer or a player and their inputs, but also do it, 30 times per second or 60 times per second on your target hardware. And that obviously means that there's a lot of very, very specific techniques and technology that you have to be able to use so that you can get not just the quality and fidelity out of it, but the performance that is necessary to make it great for the game.
So between games and movies, which of the two industries would you say puts the biggest demands on your technology?
Well, I'm probably biased. However, I will tell you that I believe that game creators and game players have typically been on the leading edge of pushing what is possible with any technology forward. And then that typically filters back in through a lot of other use cases. I think as humans, we like to be entertained. We like to play games. And so if you give any piece of technology to a creator, they're going to make a game out of it. and if you give it to a player, they're going to ask that creator to make it a little bit better. And so that constant sort of cycle of improvement, of sort of pushing what is possible in 3D, in real time, in sort of the level of fidelity, is what has pushed both hardware platforms, software platforms, and frankly, the technology of art forward in that space, which then gets used not even just in things like film or movies, but frankly, across a variety of other industries, as they look at how something like real time or 3D can change their industry.
So how do all these various components come together in a unified product or solution?
Well, for us, everything starts really with the Unity engine and editor, where we want to make it easy for people to start and build great games, including learning how to build and learning to be a game creator to begin with. From there, what we've seen is that there's a strong need for modularity because there are different types of games, there are different types of capabilities, and so we've really built on Unity, and sort of one of our fundamental philosophies is to make it easy to add in components or to modify components to be specifically what a particular creator needs. And so in some cases, frankly, that's a 2D game with 8-bit pixel art. And in other cases, it's extreme high fidelity that needs something like Ziva Dynamics to be able to plug into the rendering system. It's why in Unity we actually have different examples of renderers. There's the universal render pipeline, which is highly scriptable for a variety of formats. There's the high definition render pipeline, which is really focused around physical-based rendering and ray tracing and very, very high performance, high fidelity visuals. They don't all happen in the same game or at the same time, but providing a common toolkit and a common way that those things can plug in together is what we've seen as one of the best ways to democratize access to creation.
So what kind of impact can a product like Unity Create Solutions have on game creation?
I hope what it does is it lets people dream bigger and it lets them kind of get to where they're trying to go faster. If we can build tools that let anyone be able to generate higher fidelity visuals or more stylized visuals, depending on what their idea is, and really plug them in a way that lets them get to the fun and find what's unique about their creation, that's all we're looking to do. We're constantly inspired by what creators build with our tools and technology, and what we want to do is make it even easier for them to do so.
Why is it important to build these tools to be cloud native?
Yeah, it's a great question. Part of it is, there are being many examples where people will use local tools or local devices in order to, create something. But more and more, both the data sets that you use for creation or the actual assets once created are going to be too big for any device. And it's actually going to be about how the cloud enables both the creation and the play of that. We were talking earlier about Ziva Dynamics and how that can speed up creation. Well, that's because it's running against a machine learning model that doesn't fit on a local piece of hardware. So that you can upload a mesh of your character, and in 5 minutes, it can come back with a complete rigging that's capable of expressing 50,000 different emotions. Now, before, that would take, especially if you were looking at just being able to use the resources locally, it'd take a team of artists a long period of time to do specific rigging for just the specific use case. And this accelerates all that because of the power of the cloud. That's probably number one. Number two is we live undeniably in a hybrid world. And creators themselves, when they're in teams, are going to be more and more in different locations. And so making it easy for them to collaborate together, to work on assets that are in the cloud, to be able to access hardware regardless of where that hardware is pretty critical to the creation experience.
Is this movement toward the cloud something that your customers are pushing for? Or is this something that you've been driving them to adopt?
Well, it's a little bit of both. Another company that we acquired last year is a company called Parsec, which is about really, really high fidelity remote desktop. And there's a great Microsoft story actually that about why it seemed so obvious to us about why that was going to be important. But it also started internally, which is we just started to see more and more of our developers using this software to be able to access high performance hardware from wherever they were so they can make progress. One day, candidly, when we were all sent home for the first time during lockdown, I was driving down the road past one of the Microsoft buildings, and there's this line of cars of Microsoft employees picking up their monitors and their computers and all that they needed to be able to go home and be successful, just like all of us were. And that kind of worked when we were all going to go home and only be working from one place, which was now here in this office. But that's not actually what the reality is. The reality is we're all working in hybrid ways. Sometimes we're going into an office, sometimes we're at home, sometimes we need access to a different piece of hardware, sometimes we need to work with people who are now more distributed maybe than they would have been before, which is giving us a stronger team, but we need better tools for that. So like the pull from this, from developers on, was just really, really clear and evident.
So what was it about Azure that made them the right partner for Unity?
Well, Azure is an incredible set of services, obviously, and it's someone that we've already worked with. We've worked together, for example, in digital twins to create solutions together with industrial partners. So we already had a lot of understanding of how the Azure team worked and what their capabilities were. But more than that, as we got to talk to the leadership in Azure and some of the senior engineering talent in Azure, they shared the same vision, and they were very, very helpful in helping us understand where maybe we had some blind spots, and also as excited about where we could take this as we were, which obviously for us made them a great partner as we look to accelerate how to add value through the cloud.
What kind of impact can products and technologies like these have outside of games?
Well, this is, in the industry, it's called digital twins, like this idea of a digital representation of something from the physical world. It's going to revolutionize how almost every industry and almost every business works, from the creation all the way through sort of engagement with customers, whatever that company does. We've seen this in a lot of places already. The truth is that many companies have actually an extraordinary amount of 3D content. When you are talking to your architect, they have 3D files. When you're talking about a manufacturing company, they start in CAD programs that create 3D. Now that content is trapped, it's not real time. It's not then as useful as an entity for the marketing department or in creating product configurators or in helping customers when they get stuck. So by rethinking about those assets, but through the lens of real time, how do you transform them into something real time in 3D? It changes the experience. One of my favorite examples, by the way, using HoloLens, is work that we do, which allows people to walk building sites and see that site at any point in time through construction, from where it is at a blank slab, through when the HVAC system gets installed, through when final construction is complete. What that allows for is faster to design intent. It allows for a safer environment. It allows for people to find flaws in the design or where a mistake has been made in construction earlier, therefore saving money, making it a more efficient experience. It's just a better experience in a lot of ways. But you can tick through them all, through manufacturing, through marketing, through healthcare, which I think is going to be having a huge revolution using real-time 3D. It's very, very powerful technology for a variety of fields.
When you think about young people coming up today, what's your message to them in a world where everything is being affected by real-time 3D?
Well, I think that's awesome. Come work in the thing that inspires you. If you want to create games, come create games. We're excited to give you a set of tools that are going to make you creative and capable and sort of hopefully get to the experience that you're trying to create faster. What's cool in this particular space is I can tell you that there is an extraordinary amount of transferability of those skills. So if later on, the one thing I can tell you is you're probably going to be getting a lot of LinkedIn pings because there's going to be such a pull for people who value those types of skills. We have a very clear view that, you could argue about what the percentages are or anything like that. But the one thing that's clear to us is however much 3D content exists today in the world, there's going to be more tomorrow, and there's going to be more the day after that. And that growth rate of that content in real time is going to be very high. And it's going to be high in games. It's going to be high in things like movies and film, but it's going to be high in every industry. And so it's a great place to learn and build great skills. And if you only care about one part, there's a huge space for you to come and just spend time in that one particular part. And, frankly, obviously from a games place, that's really the core of where we start and where we are with Unity.
Marc, thanks for taking the time to chat with me today, and I look forward to learning more about what's next for Azure and Unity Create Solutions.
All right. It's great talking to you again, Ngai.